Good evening. My name is Oliver Green, and this is a ROX Broken News Commentary. In the U.S. Congress today, we have statesmen and women, and we have politicians. The two are dramatically different. They are also out of balance, by which I mean that the number of elected politicians outweigh the number of elected statesmen and stateswomen, and that the politicians are more likely to be found within the Republican Party than in the Democratic Party. Let's examine some of the differences between the two. Generally, it is thought that statesmanship, which I will now use to refer to both women and men, describes someone who does everything for the common good of the people he or she represents. Statesmen stand on a platform of fundamental truths, have a vision for their country and constituents, and are unwilling to change their beliefs to get ahead in politics. In the words of Hans J. Morgenthau, author of Politics Among Nations, statesmen are political realists and look at policy in terms of its effect on the nation. Politicians, on the other hand, tend to say or do just about anything to get elected, gain power, and stay in office. Politicians base decisions on power, wealth, and their reading of the ever-changing political landscape. Their interest in power often leads to the use of morally questionable practices such as disingenuous messages and propaganda, verbal attacks, fear-mongering, and political theater. Politicians often speak to what they think is popular rather than what is true. We live in complex and troubling times when our democracy demands the best of its elected leadership. Right now, we cannot afford self-serving, uninformed, grandstanding politicians. We need statesmen, and we must demand that only statesmen are elected and serve as government leaders today. In the mid-1800s, James Freeman Clarke, an American theologian, wrote, I quote, "The difference between a politician and statesman is that a politician thinks about the next election, while the statesman thinks about the next generation." End quote. Each day our democracy becomes less secure. If we are to survive the ongoing assault on our sacred beliefs and institutions, then we must demand statecraft and a vision for future generations from our elected officials. At the same time, we must not tolerate the selfish, hypocritical, power-grabbing ideologues who, in far too many numbers, serve in the seats of political power today. It is important to know the difference between politicians and statesmen. It is even more important to vote statesmen in and politicians out. For ROX Broken News, I am Oliver Green. Thank you, and good evening.